Hey everyone, I'm Kate, and today I'm going to be talking about the UX and product design interview process. I have over 10 years of experience in product and UX design, and I can't wait to show you the entire process and how you can prepare for your next set of interviews. Let's get into it. I'm going to walk you through the interview process, and I'm actually going to compare it to the pre-pandemic way. And let's start with the recruiter interview, the phone screening after you've applied. So in 2024, you will get a video call most likely over Zoom or Google or BlueJeans. And usually in this case, I've always had the recruiter have their video turned off, which is interesting, but they still keep it with the video call. And pre-pandemic, it was a phone call. This usually lasts around 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, okay? Now for the next step, if everything goes well, you'll get an email from the recruiter and they will schedule for the next interview. And that interview usually is with the hiring manager. So the next step here is a video call today, not in post. So pre-pandemic, it would have been the phone call interview with the hiring manager. It would have been a 30-minute call. But in today's world, we have a video call with the hiring manager, and it is around 45 minutes. And sometimes they ask to actually see your portfolio or your presentation. So that is a good thing to note when you go into these interviews, that the manager might want to see your actual work. Okay, so then the next step here is you get, again, an email from the recruiter. And I'm actually going to zoom out here because I want you to see the top. So you're going to get an email from the recruiter if everything goes well. And the next step is to schedule for the next set of interviews, okay? So in the pre-pandemic world, you would be doing a batch of interviews. In 2024, it's just for the next interview, okay? Sometimes they do batches, but I've seen cases where they only schedule one interview in 2024. So here we are. For 2024, you have another interview with a team member. This could be a designer, a different manager, a engineer, a head of engineering. It really depends. And usually there's around 3 to 4 interviews like that. So in the pre-pandemic world, this would all be in one day and it would be on site. You would have your full day of interviews back to back. You would have lunch with the team. So it's a very busy day, but you get through every single interview. Whereas in 2024, you're doing one interview at a time. Okay, so the next step is next interview with a different team member. It might be on the same day, but usually it's spread over 3 days. And now the next, so for the pre-pandemic, you finish the day, you finish your interviews, you've done the presentation, you've done a quick whiteboard challenge, and you would get a email after the interviews from the recruiter for a call. And this usually happens 3 or 4 days after the interview process. Sometimes I actually have had an offer on the on-site. So it would be all the interviews, the presentation, and then at the very end of the day, I would receive a verbal offer. And so that's a very quick process compared to 2024, which we are not done here yet. So let me just move this down here. Okay, so this is pre-pandemic, this is 2024. So now next step is you would get an email from the recruiter to schedule more interviews. And then the pre-pandemic world, you would have a verbal offer via phone call, okay? So now we're in week 4. As you can see, we have already gone over three weeks here with the new hiring process in 2024. So you can see that it's pretty crazy how long this is going now. Let's go to the next round. Okay, so this happens a lot. There's a cancellation. Someone has to reschedule their interview. Because it's been spaced out so much, it happens where someone, maybe goes on PTO or they get sick or whatever. So now we got to reschedule for that interview. And that will take about a week. So you have to wait until the next week to have that interview. Okay, that's done. Great. Now we're going to have scheduling for the design challenge. So now there's a design challenge, and this one, for example, is on site, but you can also get take-home exercises if you're a junior designer. In this case, we're pretending, you're a senior designer. You get an email about the design challenge, and then you have the actual interview, and this is over video. And this is with another team member from the design team. And you go through a design prompt that they give you, and you have to whiteboard it out in Figma, and that takes 45 minutes to an hour, full hour. And so now we're in week 5. So if that went well, if that passed, you move on to the next round. You'll get an email from the recruiter, and they will schedule for a presentation panel. Okay, so this is where you have to present 2 to 3 case studies. Sometimes they ask only for 1, but that's pretty rare. It's usually 2, and at most 3, because you don't have a lot of time to present a full 3. So it's 1 to 2 and then max 3. And so you get that email, you prepare, and then you have the presentation. And this is usually around 10 people on the call, and they're all watching you present through video call. And I have noticed that even though there might be a large group, they're usually working as you're presenting. So if it's not on the exact team, if there's like a product manager in there or an engineer, they might be multitasking. So be prepared for not everyone to be fully engaged in your design presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, they'll ask you questions. There'll be like around 10 minutes to ask you questions. And sometimes they let you ask questions to the whole entire group. That can definitely put you on the spot if you're not prepared. So make sure you prepare for that. And then finally, you will get an email from the recruiter. And this can take 1 to 2 weeks to hear back. And then you will have the phone call, and you'll receive a verbal offer. And there is negotiating here, so you might do another follow-up phone call with the recruiter to see if they can hit your targets. And then you will get a final email offer, and then that is where it ends. So technically this is more like 8 weeks. But yes, so now you can see the whole entire process for interviewing in 2024 for a senior product designer role. And this can be applied to a junior role. You just have to probably remove the design on-site challenge. It might be replaced with a take-home exercise. But if you are interviewing at a big company, they'll still give you a design challenge to do, even if you are a new designer. So as you can see, the difference between pre-pandemic to now, 2024, is pretty drastic change. And you can imagine like the recruiter here. So they're going, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're very heavily involved in scheduling, rescheduling, and imagine with this setup, on top of that, having hundreds and hundreds of designers applying, right? Because there are more designers out there now. It's a lot more design boot camps and new designers graduating every year, right? Which is great, but that means there's more options for the hiring manager to choose from. And what is the most easiest way to go through all these applicants? And then what's the best way to get as many interviews in as possible? So you can imagine if this is, let's copy paste this. So this is designer 1, and then designer 2, and then designer 3, okay? So now let's say you have 3 designers that you're really interested in, okay? And imagine all these different interviews on different days and rescheduling. And so let's just take one person from this team. Okay, let's just pretend that this person is a product manager, and they have to interview with these 3 designers. And but I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm sure there's 5. So imagine that they have their schedule and they have to do, let's say that they're in day 3. Okay. So this is their interviews. So they have to, so imagine like this is their calendar. So like this is one person and they have, and I'm sure there's probably going to be like more like 4 or 5 designers. So imagine that they have to interview 4 times for this person. So that's 4 hours out of their day. So 4 hours of interviewing, okay? And we will add like one more designer here so it makes more sense. So we've got 4 designers. This is over, like, let's just say this is like over, this is Monday, this is Tuesday. This is just one person on the team that has to interview these 4 designers, and it's all spread out over different days, right? But they also have to go to the design presentation too. So they have to go to 4 presentations. So let's copy paste that. So they have 3, 4. And this is Friday, Monday. You can see like how it adds up. And so that's, 8 hours now. So that now this product manager has 8 hours of interviewing for this one role. And you can imagine that they're also interviewing for engineers too. I am sure that if they're doing this right, if they're interviewing, if they're actually doing the process right, they're probably, like, okay, well, this person didn't make it this round, right? So they're going to remove that. And then this person didn't make it through that round. So it's like this. And then this person made it all the way to the end, but they didn't do the presentation. Okay. So it's more like this, right? Which means they need to keep interviewing. And that means you've got to interview some more. So you're probably want to give 3 offers or 2 offers. So let's add more. And we can like trim that down. So you can see now how crazy it gets. With the more designers you have that you're interviewing, the scheduling, with this type of setup, it's a lot more chaotic. Whereas with this process, it's only one day for everyone, and it's one time. What is more efficient for the hiring team, for the hiring manager, for the recruiter? I would love to get your opinion on this. I have a feeling there's a problem with this approach, with the new 2024 approach, because I think when pre-pandemic, what was great was that like when you did do on-site interviews, everyone was engaged. Everyone was putting their best effort in. You're face to face with everyone. You're there in front of them with no monitors, no other screens. They're completely, fully engaged in the interview. Whereas in 2024, they are not 100% engaged. If there's a company that believes in a hybrid model, they should be bringing in the candidate into the office, because they will be in the office sometimes. That means the candidate should have the right to know what it's like in the office before accepting an offer. Yeah, and so that is it for this little exercise. I do think it's quite interesting, this whole process. I do feel the new way of interviewing and scheduling is dehumanizing for a lot of people. It makes us feel like we are not even real human beings at this point. The rejection, I didn't even get into the rejection process. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.